Hello, my name is Mary Dunn. I work for an organisation called Resilio. I'm delighted that you were able to join us for this short video presentation that looks at our mental health and emotional well-being. I'd like to just acknowledge the Greater Chantal Area Partnership for their support in developing this resource that looks at support the mental health and emotional well-being of teachers and educators and anybody that's working in the education sector during these very challenging times. I would hope to, over the next half an hour or so, to just reflect on our mental health and just to give you an opportunity just to think about where are you at now in context of your own mental health and well-being. Explore some of our warning signs and to look at what's happening to us. And if we can recognize them, then we can start to reconnect to our self-care. And then hopefully we'll look at some self-help strategies to build and maintain your mental health, but with compassion for the life journey that's ahead of us during these difficult times. I'm going to start by, did you know that an average person tells 4 lies a day? That's 1,460 a year, a total of 87,600 by the age of 60. And the most common lie is, I'm fine. How many of us have said that I'm fine? Or often we'll say, I'm grand. And during these challenging and difficult times, we find ourselves even saying it more. So this is the reason why we want to now start to look at taking care of our mental health. So what is mental health? Where does it start? We all have mental health, and mental health is seen as the emotional and spiritual resilience to survive what life throws at us. And it fluctuates from, thriving and, reaching our full potential to struggling from time to time to becoming unwell or becoming ill. They also say mental health is about a sense of being, and a sense of being is who am I? And it's not just the job I have or the roles I play, it's who am I as a person. A sense of belonging means who am I connected to? And in these challenging times, a very sense of connection is the very thing that we need to promote our mental health. And it's the very thing that's absent in our lives because of social distancing. So our mental health is going through a very challenging time in itself because of what's happening. It also says a sense of becoming, and a sense of becoming means that I have hopes and dreams, that I look forward to tomorrow, that I have something to focus my energy on. And if we can start from that place of well-being, then we can start to build our mental health. But it is like a continuum. And if you look at from wellness to somebody who's really well, I'm sure if we think about ourselves, even over last year, maybe we were quite well, we were managing all the stresses and strains, etc. of life. And all of a sudden came January and we were through into a whole different world, a complete different world that nobody was prepared for, nobody was expected. And it just seems to be going on. So from mental well-being, we may have gone and shifted down to becoming unwell or just struggling with what's happening. Other things that we say is mental health is influenced by so much, by our own views, by our attitudes, by the knowledge we have about our mental health, by our own kind of emotional intelligence, what we know about our emotions, by our past experiences. It's not what happens to us, it's about how we view what happens to us and what we turn our stories into. Am I optimistic? Am I positive? Or am I struggling? So all of that basis can actually influence our mental health and actually allow us to feel good about ourselves. When we don't, and when things do go wrong, and I'm sure if you look at this wee graph here and you just reflect on it for a moment and just think about where you're at now, and when you do look at this, I want you to really look at it with care and compassion, because sometimes we can be so judgmental on ourselves. But when we are feeling stress and we are faced with what we're facing today, often we'll respond in many different ways. It affects our body, in our physical bodies, because often we may feel pain more than we've ever felt before. Many of us are doing Zooms today and we're kind of bent over and we feel it in the shoulders and our back and our neck. And some of us can often feel chest pains and feel those sensations, muscular tension. And we can actually feel that tension. breathlessness because our breathing has become so shallow. Just think about it from yourself at the moment. How are you feeling? You look at our mind and what's going on in our head, our constant worry, in judgment. Some people may experience nightmares because of what's happening and that vulnerability in the place that we are coming from at the moment, that some of us might feel frightened and scared and worried for ourselves, for the children that we're looking after on a day-to-day basis. And what's our world like? We often make maybe hasty decisions. What about our behaviors, the things we do? We may find ourselves becoming more accident prone or even lose our appetite or eating more, drinking more, insomnia, restlessness. Even it affects our relationships. The emotions are massive big ones that can impact, and emotions can take over us, and loss of confidence, maybe becoming more fussy, irritable, depressed. All of those big, strong emotions can impact on our mental health. And if you have any of those today, just acknowledge them. Just today is a day to start, just to name them. We can name our emotions, name how we're feeling, then we can begin the journey of healing them. If anybody is struggling today with any of this, we will have helpline numbers at the end of the session. Take that great first step of courage to ask for help if you are struggling. Even talking to each other as colleagues can help sometimes to soothe these emotions. Naming them and being comfortable with them, but looking at them with compassion is the most important thing that we can do. Compassion, it's a powerful word that we use, and I would always encourage people when you're talking about yourself and your mental health, always go for a place of compassion. And a lovely definition is a sensitivity to suffering of self and others with a deep commitment to try and relieve it. There's not one of us today that isn't trying to help and reach out to others who are struggling, and particularly the children that you're looking after on a day-to-day basis, even working through all their struggles and the big heavy emotions that they walk into your classroom with, or you're facing on a day-to-day basis, even as you're at your workplace, is the uncertainty of the future and what's happening. But I love the definition because it says the suffering of self and others, and he very much put self first and then others. How many of us really put ourselves first? Always we put others. And if you were in a plane today and that plane was going down, who would they say to put the oxygen mask on first? And I'm sure many of you who are listening to me today would probably say everybody else before me. But I want you to start today is to put that oxygen mask on yourself, because if you don't, you won't be able to help others if you're not able to help yourself. So it must come from a place of care and compassion. When we talk about compassion, and I'm not going to read all this out, I'm maybe going to invite you to maybe just to take a copy of it and do a little bit of self-reflection for yourself. But it's a very powerful concept when we look at compassion, the cycle and the variations that come with it. Because when we talk about compassion, it's the core of everything that we do around mental health. If you look at our attributes, and there's 6 when they're down there, there's self-compassion, there's compassion to others, and then compassion from others. So it's not just to give, it's about giving and taking, and it's about sharing. And if we look at just sensitivity, and if you were to ask yourself, I notice when I'm distressed. You notice when you are distressed. What does it look like for you? How do you know? How do you feel? Do you take time to notice it? Compassion to others. I notice another person is in distress. Do we take time to kind of just today look at our colleagues? And I know we're social distancing and a lot of it is on Zoom, but we can still connect and notice when our colleagues are struggling. Do we reach out to them as well? It's not just one way, that it has to be a two-way process. The third concept is compassion from others. Do other people notice you, or do you often feel invisible? And each of those areas, from sympathy to non-judgmental, non-judgmental is very powerful. I accept rather than judge myself. Do you accept yourself today? Or are you constantly judging yourself? Do you accept other people that are in distress? Or do we see it as vulnerability or weakness? Do other people accept me and accept me for my vulnerability and weaknesses and help me to soothe them? if we were to go forward as a workplace, as an organization, as a society, and we set out to embrace all of this concept, I really believe we will become stronger and more compassionate and more caring, not only in our workplaces, in our schools, in our homes, but our whole culture could shift. We could just start to adopt these. And I would say to you today, just pick one or two of them and just do it with curiosity. What's it like for me? What's it like for the other person? Do I get something back? Because if we can do this, I really believe we can help to promote mental health for everybody going forward. Because there's a cost for caring. And I know you as teachers and educators and working in the education sector today, your one passion, you didn't just become a teacher. I always believe teachers are born. It's a career, it's a vocation because you want to care for others. And you're more than just kind of giving education. You're there to support them. You're often the therapist, the counselor, the support worker, the step-in parent, the guardian. You are actually many, many roles that you play for those children and young people. And there is a cost to it. So it's so important today when you start looking at your mental health that you start to take care of yourself to enable you to do this. I'm going to now just introduce you to a little video clip. Maybe it will give you just a little bit of reflection, just for a moment, on where you're at yourself.
I'm like one of those Japanese bowls that were made long ago. I have some cracks in me. They have been filled with gold. That's what they used back then when they had a bowl to mend. It did not hide the cracks. It made them shine instead. So now every old scar shows from every time I broke, and anyone's eyes can see I'm not what I used to be. But in a collector's mind, all of these jagged lines make me more beautiful and worth a much higher price. I'm like one of those Japanese bowls. I was made long ago. I have some cracks you can see how they shine of gold.
It's a beautiful wee clip that just says we all come from a place of vulnerability, and that's why it's so important that we all now work together to take care of our mental health. Taking care of myself doesn't mean me first, it means me too. So begin your journey today of just stopping, pausing, and just noticing where you're coming from. Notice our vulnerability, and it's okay to feel that. It is okay to have all the cracks, but it's what we do with them now and how we go strong and how we can actually grow strong together. Give yourself permission to feel, and feel, give yourself permission, because sometimes, although we're wearing masks today, we've been hiding behind masks for so long with our mental health because we're often afraid to express our feelings, express our anger, express pain. What we need to start doing is being able to express it openly, because the more we can express and talk about our mental health, the more we can help the next generation of children and all who are struggling with their mental health today. The more we can get better at talking about it, the more then we can start to take away the stigma and get us to talk to each other, and then let go with love, care, and compassion, because that's the journey of what we need to be doing. Here's a simple strategy for you to start now, which is something that you can use on a day-to-day basis, and I usually call it the stop strategy. And it says just stop. And sometimes we need to just stop what we're doing and just put your feet on the ground and just get yourself grounded for just that moment and just take a deep breath. Breathing is something, as somebody once said to me, thank goodness he made it automatic, because he left it to us lot, we'd all be dead. Breathing at this time is so important, because as we breathe in and that deep breath and breathing in and releasing, it helps to calm and soothe the body of some of those heavy emotions we're carrying. Just observe, notice what's going on. Notice what's going on in yourself. Where you're feeling it? Where am I feeling pain? Where am I noticing it? Observe what's going on around you, and then just pull back. We don't have to get everything done today. We can actually draw ourselves back. It's not about catching up, it's about recovery, because we are all recovering from what we're going through. And each day is a new day of recovery. So draw back from the language you're using to yourself about trying to catch up and trying to do this. Say, I'm recovering. Each day I am recovering. And then look to things you can control, because there's so much out there at the moment we can't control. So just draw on what you can control and work on that. Practice what works for you, because what works for me and what works for your colleagues may not work for you. Find what works for you. And the simplest thing might be that you draw on something that you're passionate about, something that gets you to distract you away from the big heavy emotions. So a hobby or an interest, something that maybe you forgot to do or have set aside and haven't thought about it for a while. Start to use it, because I always used to say that we have a life work balance, not a work life balance, because life comes first. And I think this whole COVID and all what we're going through has really taught us that life is the most important thing. Our work is part of it, but what we do with our lives is far more important. Start to look and see, how am I living my life? There's the 5 ways, and I usually put the 5 W's. Who you are is what makes you special. You're a unique individual person. Work on being the best that you can be, and start by today. Just if you wrote down I am, what would you put after it? And it's not about I'm a teacher or I'm this or the roles I play or I'm a mom or my dad. They're all the partners we play. What am I? Who am I? And I often put down I am enough. When I put that after for myself, I recognize I'm not competing with anybody anymore. I am enough, and I'm working on being the best that I can be. What lies ahead will always be a mystery. So don't be afraid. It is a mystery at the moment. We're not sure, but you're not on your own. We're all in this together. And I think if we become better at connecting with each other, with that togetherness, we can get through it. When life pushes us over, and it does, and it is sometimes 2 or 3 times in a day, we feel like we've been pushed over. Treat yourself with kindness by holding on to one's painful thoughts. Just notice what's happening and name that thought or that emotion or that feeling. then I can actually begin the journey of healing. They say the most powerful thing is when I can tell my story and I'm listened to, my journey of healing begins. So we need to get better at listening to ourselves and listening to others. Where there are choices, make ones you won't regret. We all have our social distance and the rules and that are there now. We have choices to make there, and we need to take charge of what we can control and how we can manage this virus. And if we can do that, then we can actually come from a place of compassion. We're not only helping ourselves, but we're helping others. Why things happen, we'll never know. And we can go into all the reasons and all the theories and everything else that's going on. But at the moment, we need to just look at taking one day at a time. Say yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. Focus on the present. That's enough for us to deal with at this moment in time. What's happening tomorrow will happen. But if I can focus on today, I will have energy to deal with tomorrow. So just learn what's going on around you and learn about yourself, because this is a great opportunity to learn about how you're coping and time to reflect on what we're doing with life. Self-care with compassion. Increase self-awareness by identifying your strengths. What has got you through the last 7 months? And when I do that exercise, I just think it's so powerful, because usually we look at, well, what's got us through it. What has really got us through it is our determination, our passion for life, our willingness to make things better. That's what gets us through. Analyze what pushes your buttons, because sometimes we think about, he made me angry, or she done this, or he done that. Nobody can make you do anything without your permission. Look at your own buttons and ask, why am I getting angry? What's happening here? Or why am I feeling sad? It's not about the other person, it's about what I'm choosing here. It's not what happens to me, it's about what I think about what happens to me and then what I do with it. Build self-efficacy, and it's like, I have my thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. I encourage people to make peace with their past, because I think at this moment in time we have enough to carry, enough to deal with on a day-to-day basis without holding on to so much of the past. Because if I'm living in the past, then I live in the present. And how can I actually find my strengths? And how can I find my way through all of this if I'm constantly in the past? Learn ways to relax. And no better person that knows how to relax than you. You give yourself permission to do it. Whether it's meditation, prayer, whether it's gardening, whether it's fishing, whatever it is that works for you. Again, we're having to be aware of our social distancing and everything else. It still doesn't stop us introducing some good stuff into our lives that actually allows us to feel rich and promotes our mental health. You know, pretend you're on four wheels. Would you treat your car the way you treat yourself? We really take care of our cars so well, but yet the very person that drives the car, sometimes we don't even think about. So start to treat yourself like that Rolls Royce. Start to treat yourself with that care, compassion you need and you deserve. It's okay to be imperfect. You know, sometimes we're working towards perfection. Our imperfections are so powerful because that's what we're learning from. We learn from our mistakes. If mistakes were never made, how will we ever learn? Laughter, I often say, is the best tranquilizer of all. And we need to kind of start connecting with each other and reaching out to each other, not just with work, but social connections, through fun, through getting people connected in different ways. Retire from the Supreme Court, get out of the human judgment business. Why add to your stress levels by the usual criticism of other people? What somebody once said to me, what other people think of me is really none of my business. It's myself that counts. And again, find that funny bone. Safeguard your stability zone. The stability zone is a place or anywhere that you can go that you feel safe. Many people will do mindfulness and do meditation and create their own safe place through visualization. But it might be in your wee armchair at home, it might be your bedroom, it might be some space that you go for a walk, that's your space, but it's a place that you feel safe, and it's a place that you can be you. You don't pretend, you can just be you. Name, claim, and tame is a lovely concept to use. Name what's happening. Claim it. In other words, what is it that I'm responsible for? Because I can't be responsible for everything. I can only be responsible for my actions. How now can I tame it? Tame it means I would rather a kitten on my lap than have a tiger. So how could I tame that big heavy emotion? It's not about getting rid of it, it's about calming it. Put the bait to bed. I always say our bedrooms for two things, sleeping, I leave the other to your imagination. But our bedrooms are a sacred place, and it's a place that we're recharging our batteries, getting ourselves ready for the next day. And we need to make that a very safe, special space for us. It is okay to be not okay. And, remember what I said at the start of this, the biggest lie we tell is I'm grand. Maybe we need to become more honest with ourselves when we're not grand and we're not coping, just to let somebody know I'm not doing good today. And if we are coming from a place of compassion, the other person will respond. Let's see how we can help. And it's good to talk because we need to get better at talking and sharing our emotions. By doing that, we become great ambassadors for mental health, for ourselves, our families, and for all the children and young people that are so needed today. There's additional support out there should you need it. Lifeline is there. And I always say to people, Lifeline isn't just for somebody who's suicidal. Lifeline is there for anyone in distress. 24/7. I would usually encourage people to put it on their phones and have it for themselves, their family, their friends, or anybody that's struggling today. That lifeline is there for them, and you will access support and help. The family doctor, and I've put additional numbers down there should you need it. We also have our app, which is a Hip Hop Array. It's an app that you can use even as a teacher. You can use it with your children and young people. And it's a powerful app that teaches hope and resilience. And again, it's available free of charge to anybody who wants to download it. And I thank you for listening to me tonight or whatever time you are listening to me. And I hope it has been of some help. Just begin your journey today with care and compassion and look after yourself, look after each other, and reach out if anybody is struggling. Take that big step of courage to ask for help. It is okay to ask for help. Most of all, it is okay to take care of our mental health exactly the same as our physical health. The better we get at that, the better we get at taking care and living our lives and probably reaching our full potential. So, can I thank you and I wish you well?